I would say that as Twaweza, we have opportunities where we feel that they can be utilized by the UPPA. We have a program that is called data journalism, and we've also extended a bit of that to SEPA. We try to encourage media to utilize evidence in their reporting, and then we have a little token that we give to the individuals that cover stories that utilize evidence, because we are trying to encourage use of evidence in everything that we execute in Uganda. Then we also plan on having a survey that is targeted at understanding the lives, or should I say the experiences of the journalists. We have done that in Tanzania. We are doing that in Kenya. We also want to do that in Uganda, and then have a space where we are openly speaking about those challenges that many here have experienced and have also aired out. So that is something that we will do in Uganda, and we hope that we will have an audience to share that information. In Tanzania, that information has been utilized to formulate the communication strategy for the country. So we believe that there's also an opportunity for that to work here. We cannot afford to give up.
Before we start talking about the shrinking civic space, what political system are we in? Are we in a democracy? Are we in a fascist arrangement? Because it's very important such that we know how to maneuver. The reason why I'm asking this is because over years, it's increasingly becoming difficult for us to operate. As we speak right now, there is, since I'm seeing a number of honorable MPs, I would also like to chip in with this. Journalists at Parliament have tried to hold Parliament accountable. But the pushback from the institution is what has not been talked about. It's very hard for you to do the journalistic stories that impact society without you getting kicked out. We have had one who was allegedly put in coolers. Then I wasn't there when you were speaking. Oh, no, let me go with whatever you say. Go on. So it's very important for us to know the system we are in. If you have followed this story from 1986, you will realize a number of our senior comrades. Some we have changed flanks, like Tony Owana. You know what happened to him. You know Kalundi Serumaga, one of Uganda's best and celebrated journalists. Since 2009, he has been banned from practicing for what? For talking about Uganda issues. Then some people say they are annoying. So please help us such that we find a way how to handle this.
So for me, what I picked from this is that media is the watchdog. If at all the information is there, but what is missing is the monitoring and evaluation, how can media bridge the gap to ensure that this monitoring and evaluation is actually done? The reason I say that, it's because I've seen in the data that we've collected in the past, not every citizen is willing to criticize the members of parliament. That in cases where we've heard that members of parliament have gone to do a consultation, they've sometimes come back and shared things that we, the wananchi, haven't actually told them. But who is there to hold them accountable? I think it ought to be the media. I'll just share this statistic. 59% of Ugandans say that they feel free to criticize the MP, their local MP. Only 59. It ought to be 100%, not so. That is the ideal world that we want. It ought to be. Because you're representing us, we should feel free to criticize you. Not so. Criticism can be positive, not so. The thing is that we have a habit of not accepting criticism because we look at it like it's purely negative. When somebody is bringing up an issue, it's because they want the situation to get better. Not so. That is my point of view.
Twaweza and Track FM, I would want to know whether you were interested in a survey on the law we passed on anti-homosexuality. Because arguably, where we are right now in terms of the funding and looking for citizens to give us more taxes is because some people pulled out as a result of the law that we did pass. Which wouldn't be a big problem, because if indeed, like the honorable members of parliament decided that we are representing the citizens, so the citizens wanted this law, okay? So them as members of parliament were also in position, and they were given some of these warnings about what that law could do. So there was a question of weighing, because right now, the wananchi are going to be in very serious squeeze over trying to fill up those gaps that are being left by the donors. But it's not a problem if as a country we decide this is what we want, okay? Now the other problem would be, as citizen-centric parliament would handle it which way. Because in the passing of the law, the whole house was in one voice, let's do this. No matter what comes, actually sometimes you hear voices of, if they want, they will take away the sponsorship, donors, travels and all those things. But now when it comes to paying for those sanctions, we don't see the MPs who were at the head of this speaking in one voice, also absorbing those functions, those sanctions. Instead, the sanctions are being sent down to the wananchi. The fuel, the water, the cement, now we have IFRIS, So all those issues, so I ask myself, a citizen-centric parliament, how does it respond to the fact of the sanctions? Do they, as they spoke in one voice, in saying this is what we are upholding, do they also uphold the sanctions likewise and saying, as part of being part of you in this struggle, this is what we are also doing. But majorly is our research team from Track FM and Twaweza. Do you do something about this law in the eyes of the citizens?
As Twaweza, we do not have data on that. But for me, as you pose that question, the first thing that came to mind is, how do we ensure that what we have already is spent wisely? I think that is a big question. We've seen a lot of leakages here and there. What is being done about that? Because I believe the money will never be enough. But how do we effectively utilize what we have? And how can the members of parliament continue to do that oversight role and ensure that things are going in the right direction? That is my response to that.
I don't know who put this on the agenda. But the Uganda parliament is structured in such a way that whatever finds its way on the order paper is what is good enough for the regime to hear. And whatever they don't, we can accuse us for the homosexuality bill. That's somebody talking about it. My dear, you go to my place in Bukoro Central. For me, it is not my view. For me, I'm just a representative. I'm just a representative. And I don't want to carry the, what do I call it? Yeah. The cross of my, why don't you go and publish those ones? Because for me, I'm just annoyed. I go and represent their views. 100 years ago, they got religion. They told us religion was good. And those that were in Sodom were punished. We took that. They did what we took. Yes. Then in memorial, they started talking about our cultures and norms. We adopted them. They were Toro, they were Chiga, they were Toro, they were Ghana, and the rest. And it is what our people know. Now today, when you go to them and ask them, you know what, this is something called homosexuality, but we are saying let it stay. They say, you man, are you religious? Is this part of your norms? Then now for me, I want to come up to Parliament. I don't want to be a president one. So now I'm pushing for that. Because now some things should be, I think maybe it was handled badly to be more administrative than what? Than Parliament. That one I can understand. We would have dealt with it in another way than doing it in Parliament and talking about it.
There was the mention that citizens are probably not interested in the data that is being shared or news stories that are shared by the media. And then there was a reference made to Ugandans are relying on social media to get information. Every single time I hear that comment that Ugandans are relying on social media to get information, I kind of shrink a bit, because it's not the truth. Who are Ugandans? It's not only us in this room. There's somebody in Karamoja. There's somebody deep in, I don't know what village. Yeah. Those people out there are not relying on social media. Internet penetration in Uganda is not above 50%. It's 29%. From the data that we have here at Chaweza, those that use the internet are about 8%, social media that is. And they are largely those of us that are in the in the urban locations, and the young people. It's not everybody. Yes, we have seen campaigns on social media, and they've been quite effective. But that is not the only piece of the pie. There are other Ugandans out there that are probably not even able to read and understand English. They use radio, primarily radio. It has remained up there.
If a minister comes out and says, we held this meeting, we discussed this issue, and we made resolutions to do this and that, as a journalist or any other citizen, you can actually request for meeting minutes to find out actually what he's saying. Is it true? Did they actually make these resolutions? That's as long as it's a government body, you have access to that, the meeting minutes. You can request for policy documents, maybe guidelines, procedures, contracts, and tenders. Now, note that some of this information is information that you may not easily get by, calling a public official, make a comment on this story, do this. They will not give you the details of maybe a contract construct, maybe Entebbe Express. They will not give you the details of that information. You'll actually need to get the contract, the real documents, and this is not something that you will easily get from, from your colleague. A colleague can give you a comment, but then remember that most of the stories are in what is not being said. What is actually not being said is where the most stories are, and maybe public interest. So this, how you can use this act is to ask for that information that you'll not easily get, and most likely no one is saying a thing about the real content of such information. You can ask for financial information, budgets. You can actually ask for personnel records as long as they are public employees. You can ask for salaries, their job titles, performance evaluation. What we usually discuss. This MP is not performing. This person is just seated in office. Actually, the law gives you the right to ask for this personnel record as long as the person is working for a government official. It's not private information. You can ask for their title. You can ask for their performance evaluation. You can go even ask in reference to the job description of what they are supposed to be doing, and then their performance evaluation. All this is information that the law empowers you to get. And then you can ask historical records we have had discussions of, during the time of Amin, they were mistreating Ugandans, they were making decisions that would torture Ugandans, but this current government is doing well. You can actually ask for historical records. You can go for records on past government decisions, what decisions were made during the time of Amin. Personally, I wasn't born then, but then the law empowers me to actually request for this information, compare with the decisions that are being made today. What I didn't talk about is that there's some little fee that you actually pay. The law says it's for printing these documents, 20,000, and with the background of journalism and the working conditions, I understand this is this cost, as small as it is, it's something big for a journalist who is, being already underpaid and, doing a lot of work. I understand, and I can say these are some of the things that we are working together with civil society. We're engaging the government to make some amendments to this law, including the fee that is levied, including the timeline that is set for, the 21 days. And we hope our advocacy and engagements yield something.
Financing of the media. First of all, I think sometimes I find it that there's a deliberate effort, because if the media is weak, the government benefits. It will not be put in check. You shall not scrutinize it very well. So I think government is benefiting, but you can allow MPs to at least to break this, because I've heard that in the very financial year, government sets aside over 75 billion for the media, but we never see this money anyway. So I encourage you as a parliament to find at least we have a budget, maybe a special media budget, which can be accessed we can talk about Post Bank and those government banks where the media owners can go and get this money, because otherwise, even in our own national broadcaster, it has been asking for supplementaries, a lot of funding from government, usually going there, but this money, if it is approved, it's never released. So it's like it is a deliberate effort to keep the media because government benefits. Thank you so much.
Yes, as I said from our survey, this was captured in our reports, that the attitude of public officials is still a challenge, actually a major challenge. There's still a lot of secrecy. There's still, this attitude of I'm doing you a favor by giving you this information. I can say from the work we have been doing, we have actually made shocking instances. There's an organization, there's an institution we asked for information and they told us they needed 10 million. I won't say the institution, 10 million. And this is like, we couldn't imagine it, but it was, in reality, it happened. It happened, but of course the law doesn't allow that. So imagine it's a journalist who has asked for this information. Maybe you don't even have, the ability to pursue court in this regard, because it also, requires money. In that instance, I recommend working with civil society like Africa Freedom of Information Center, and we see how we can work together to get that information if it's really information that we think the public must get to know. The other was on the attitude, then journalists who are not empowered, and then media rushing to publish. Yes, I understand this is a serious problem, but I can also say, if you look at stories that really make impact, they are not stories that, that you will work on for 2 days or 1 day. Stories, there's writing a story, if you remember Solomon's story on the drugs and what, I think that's a story that could have taken even a year. But just one story like this takes a year for you to write. But when it comes out, the impact it makes goes for 10 years. That's even 5 years from now, people will still be talking about, the drug story. Stealing from the sick. Even our children will come and talk about that story. That was one story that took a lot of time, took investment in getting information, because this is not information that you're going to call a minister or an official, tell me this and this, and they tell you. It will actually take you asking for this information formally and having a backing of the law. So what I can recommend or say, comment in regard to this law is that it's, if it's to work in your favor as a journalist, it is those stories that you know really are impactful, that you're willing to, invest in for the sake of the public to get the real data. Because this data, most of the times, no one is talking about these gaps. Even the people that you call, even the friends, no one is going to give you this data. You will actually need, the hard copies you yourself will need to take a step.
It is not by, it is by default that we are not yet at the level of democracy that other citizens enjoy out there. For us, we are somewhere. And we are not comfortable there, but we have nothing to do. Or the journalists have nothing to do. I have not seen one journalist write. I have not seen you out there crying for your rights and up in arms with government and UCC with banners and everything. I've never seen you there. I see you picking our rights, but not you writing. You write in your hands. You don't keep writing. That's very simple. Nobody is going to fight for you to put food on your table. I can part with like a 50k or 100, yes, where to go with me. But I will not fight for you for your rights. And don't you ever think that somebody is out there fighting for your rights. It begins with you. It begins with you. I mean, they are not affecting engineers and the engineer that I am. If it was about engineering and the government is pushing us, we'll go out there and write. And then we see whether our employers and employees will, and our employers will take us out. Any demonstration is organized in consensus. And at that point, Parliament will be there to safeguard you. No, there's no way these people are right. Because we want to come in at that level, not to come in at the time when you people are in your base. And for us, we are that side fighting for you. And I want to be very, very clear on that. Provided you cannot speak for yourself, but speak for us, we enjoy it and keep doing it. But if you can't fight for yourself, we shall join you when you fight for yourself. For now, we have joined you because you put up something, and that's why I thank the President. Now we know the issues, and we can go back and what? This is part of it. Put your voices out there. And this is part of it. Everyone at Parliament, that is, even if it is the police, they earn their salary and also earn an extra pay of 1.2 million. Each that is appointed to come to Parliament. Because being at Parliament is not the field, it is different. It has its issues. So I think members of Parliament that are here, it's good that we ask the Parliamentary Commission to do something about the members of the press that are in Parliament. And they do facilitate it somehow. And don't fear bringing it up. I don't know whether it's me that should raise it. Because for me, I will raise it. Wherever I want me to raise it. With this system of government, you're going to get something better. Do you expect that to be better? Because I want to, for me, I don't debate in anticipation. There is a government that has been here 40 years, but some of you are part of it. And after 50 or 40 years, it is supposed to stay for another 50. And as they are planning to stay another 50, they have to find ways of staying. And one of the ways is by, limiting information, all vital information to the people. My people in the village do not know about Millennium Development Goals. They even don't know about Vision 2040. They don't know the National Development Plan, and for your own sake, they even don't know the budget that was passed yesterday. They already said one thing, they have increased it to 100 shillings of fuel.
the public actually interested in this information? What I can say is the public is interested. Like this example of the story I've given you, someone would argue, who wants to know who is stealing from the sick? You know, everyone is stealing. Doctors are stealing Panadol and selling it. You know, we'll just take it service that actually the public is not interested. But when that story came out, everyone actually was interested. Everyone wanted to watch. It caused, a debate. I can say that actually the stories that sometimes we think that the public is interested in, the wrangles, these stories that we call this, controversial, and actually the stories that we think the public is not interested in, you'll find they are actually interested. Someone would like to know, if I'm in a singular district, the budget says we are supposed to have 20 schools, but then we have 10 schools, and there is someone willing to come out and, analyze and follow that story and dig out information and request what happened. There are supposed to be 20 schools, but singular has 10 schools. Actually, you'll find that the public is more than interested, but they will, we'll show that we are not interested because no one is willing to actually take it on for us. Those village, our village parents and grandpas, they do not even have the ability. They have not gone to school. They don't even if you try to explain the act, you can ask for it. They won't understand it. Just like a journalist here in Kampala or a journalist in Barra, you will understand it more. So you're better positioned to use the law to actually get that information on their behalf. Public has nothing to do with serious information. They love social media, gossip. It's not like, okay, I don't want to speak for everyone, but personally I would say it's not that we are interested in that kind of information, but that's what we are getting. What should we do? Like, that's what is on, that's what is available. You might want bread, but what is available is cassava. What do? You start enjoying cassava. But if they gave you bread, you will enjoy it, you will love it, you will actually show that you love it. But because that's what is available for the public, so they will consume it and actually, learn to enjoy it because that's what is available. But if there is a willing citizen willing to go the long process of, getting real cream information using the law, then trust me, the public will be interested.
Deliberate on the issue of ethics within journalism, that if at all a politician has opened up a station, how do we ensure that the reporting will still remain fair? I think that is a question for all of us in the room, including SEP and the other partners, that we need to address, because it could probably solve some of the key issues that you've brought up.
I want to say that whereas we have issues, but you also have issues to address. Maybe this one may not be for you who are seated here, but for the media houses that you work for. I heard from the submission that there is a problem in facilitating you, the journalist. And I know that is happening. My colleague was saying we have not passed the minimum wage. But I guess this is not to do with the minimum wage. If I'm a media house and I cannot support my journalists to collect information from the field, then I cease I cease to have the right to get the information from that journalist. I remember when I was still a member of the ICT, I had proposed that the UCC engages the media houses and they facilitate you to effectively do your work. And during that time, Irene was in charge, and she promised us that she's going to do that. Unfortunately, I left ICT because she had promised that she's going to come back and report. I think that is something that we should take interest in, even before we think of government facilitating you. But I also support the idea of government facilitating the media houses. But for the case of those ones at Parliament, I think Parliament has the capacity, again, to facilitate the journalists that are created by Parliament to effectively do their work. Because we say we are a parliament that is centered, a people-centered parliament. So if we are a people-centered parliament, and the information that we want to pass to the citizen is passed through you, then I don't see any challenge in us as parliament facilitating the journalists accredited to work for parliament. I think that is something my colleagues are here, that we can engage the leadership of parliament and see at least something, a little facilitation is added on what you get from the media houses that you work for.
In the 9th Parliament, I and Honorable Nalubega Mariam started the parliamentary forum on media. But subsequently, I went into a sabbatical holiday, a sabbatical leave, which was forced for 5 years. And we didn't even have time to hand over. But later, I think it was picked up. And when I came back in the 10th Parliament, I found that the journalists are very well organized with the presidents, vice presidents, and so on, and that was so pleasing. I came a little bit late, but I want to thank you so much for this engagement and the partners. At that time, we were interrogating the issue of free press, the freedom of conscience, which carries with it the freedom of expression. And this freedom was being curtailed by the state. And members of parliament, together with the journalists, wanted to ensure that the state is engaged to guarantee the freedom of press, which carries with it the freedom of conscience and the freedom of expression. I think when you write, when you report, it is your freedom to express yourself, and that freedom must be guaranteed. It must not be gagged, whether it hurts or not. Where I come from the Democratic Party, we are a party for fundamental freedoms. And we swear to uphold, protect the fundamental freedoms for everybody. So if at all the media is gagged, then we know that we are not going to have the report from the Fourth Estate that stabilizes a country. The Fourth Estate is so powerful in the sense that it can frame political questions, but it can also do a lot of advocacy. But we also want to interrogate, who does the media serve? Does the media serve the public? Does the media serve individual interests to take a Kavera home? Does the media serve the individual media houses? The freedom that we seek to protect is the freedom to serve the public. And I believe that any report that anyone does is for public interest. And that would be the reason why we would volunteer information. We would not volunteer information if at all that information is used for selfish reasons. It is difficult. So, before me, any journalist must define, who are you serving? If at all the information that we publish is for public interest, I'm interested in you because journalism is a noble profession. just like the noble profession of medicine, noble profession of law, which accesses privileged information for the sake of the public. But does the media, can we have free media with poverty? Over time, we have realized that it is very difficult to practice journalism on an empty stomach when you are thirsty. But that one also betrays your conscience. That is why it is debatable to think that Parliament should facilitate the media. It can compromise the principles. How do we facilitate the media without compromising them? How are you going to report fairly? How are you going to report the truth, if at all that truth is going to hurt an institution that funds you? How many media houses have we had whose journalists are being oppressed? They are not even being paid. They are not even given contracts. They are just there, depending on private passes. But how many journalists have written about their own media houses which employs them?
The journalists you see do not have contracts. Therefore, they cannot even demand for what they deserve. Very many issues coming out, and that is actually why we have this event here, the press plenary, where journalists engage policymakers, and you get to hear from the journalists themselves. It is important.
That one was our difficulty. So we, as members of Parliament, would have wanted to engage the owners of media houses, and we tell them the truth. If you can't tell them, we tell them off. They have an investment and they are in pursuit of profit. You are their workers, and it is on the basis of what you do that these media houses gain a lot of influence and make money. But there must be something that comes to the table of the journalists so that they also put food to table, because that is what we are here for on earth. On an empty stomach, free journalism is also very difficult. On an empty stomach, even the wise journalists will not be in position to report without compromise. At the end of the day, whoever wants to be reported on would pay for the story, and it will be skewed the way you want it. So if at all it is public interest, then we can have a fight together to ensure that these freedoms are protected, and also the right to a fair remuneration to be fought for by all of us, not you alone.
But in a nutshell, I support whatever you are saying, but we need to work together as you journalists and Parliament and government to achieve what we want to achieve. Reporting is okay, but also there is the reporting that you can make and then just do bad to the government than the good that you want to achieve from the public. So as journalists, you also need to balance. What am I reporting? What impact does it have to the society? So if we move together, work together, and develop our nation together, there is no doubt we will achieve what we want to achieve. And the fourth estate is very key in the development of this country. With that, I thank you, and I thank you for inviting me to attend this. I have picked a lot of things that I promise to push in my capacity.
It is only if it interferes with national security and individual privacy. Those are the only two conditions. So we should not be denied access to information.
So there was an order from somewhere that someone should not come to Parliament to report.
And that order is irreversible.
And it is because this particular person did not have credentials or reported something that was not in favor of the Parliament.
Yes.
Yes.
But it was right information.
We don't know. Which are everywhere?
And at that time, all of you went back to your beds, slept, comfortably with your wives and children. And then you left these people in the crossfire.
Absolutely.
What if it happens to you next time? I'm not here to incite you. I'm only telling you, if you're an association, then be it. Stand as one. Even at the times of terror, stand as one. You don't leave this young man. This young man here. He cannot even speak for himself in front of the speaker. Because that is, there are even members of parliament that are there. Answers, they became answers.
That one.
I can mention them freely like I was on your TV yesterday. The commanders, the Zetais, the Gaviras, the Namujus, the Moose. I can mention them freely. They have become handbags and they are not telling the speaker what he is supposed to do. There is a time when you should start on the right side of life. I am not talking about people. And for that, because they are not. Then you will start on the right side of democracy and on the right side of that's what I'm saying. Stop trembling. The more you tremble, the more you're going to be pressed and oppressed and oppressed. And if you can't speak for yourselves, and you start trembling because of these small salaries that you're getting, a year 5 million, 4, 3, 2 at parliament, then you earn those ones. But for how long? Those remarks? I remember somebody talked about the expenditure of government. We have cautioned the government of the expenditure. Listen, it gave money to Magola, it gave money to Ajak somehow, it gave, but this is the power of numbers. The game of parliament is at the time when people are, at the time when we go to our villages for nominations, people look for the most favorable card for their, the most favorable ticket to run for their what? Constituencies. Very few people have the money today to go giving out constituents, or to even, as you convince them, they are looking for money and asking for money. So now, the person that has money is well known, and the guns. So what happens is that person will manipulate the numbers that will come. And Uganda just becomes an indirect democracy, an indirect dictatorship. Whatever he says is done. When you go to court, he's the one that selects the courts. So you don't expect members of parliament to shout against somebody that brought them to parliament. 70% of them were brought under tickets. The NUP ticket, a DP ticket, an NRM ticket or something. Somebody knows that when if they withdraw it, I will not come back to parliament. And to them, parliament is the end of the world. So you will not really. So whatever they want to get, they get. Because parliament became just a place to extend. It's an extension of somebody's arm. And now that our leadership is somehow compromised, the more you can, you know, if you have a child and they have done something wrong, but if you say to them, you go and do this, you go to the well at 8 p.m., she will run. And you know that's the truth. Why don't you report that?
The ones who write these stories about misappropriation and all of that, it's through the media. So we appreciate the support.
I also want to thank SEPA. Thank you so much for facilitating this. We have just started, and trust me, on a quarterly basis, we shall continue having these engagements of the press plenary. I know a number of partners will be joining us, the number of partners will be engaging, UPPA and SEPA to say that they can join us. And we hope that in the next engagement, the next quarter, we shall have more partners. Members of Parliament, thank you for sacrificing your time. I know you are too busy to engage.
In particular, my colleagues have really almost answered many of the questions that were raised. but I have one in particular. Mr. Kajubi made a statement that in the entire budget, there is only one item that will go to the local people, and that is the PDM money. The rest, it doesn't sit. No, that is wrong for a journalist to have that kind of mentality. It is wrong. That means you'll have bias in your reporting. Because one, we have a lot of hope in you people that you can actually dissect the budget and give information to the public in the correct way. Because all this budget is for the communities, by the way, for our people. There are roads, there is electricity, there is we are paying, the budget is going to take care of salaries for our teachers who are teaching our children, doctors, and so many. So you cannot say it's only one item that will actually benefit our people. Well, putting that aside, journalists, we understand that you are working in a very tight situation. We know, those of you who are at Parliament, how sometimes you compromise stories for purposes of your survival. That one we understand. And as it has been said by my colleagues, this is Uganda. We also need to understand where we are. This is Uganda. So this is not America, this is not UK. So just understand that certain things may not be done the way you may want it. Because it is also clear that the challenges, personally the challenges I understand, that is actually facing the media. One could be government regulations. Two could be censorship, because just as I've said, there are stories you feel you want to write. And your conscience tells you, wait a minute, if I write this story, what is going to happen? We know. But sometimes, if you bear and write that story, you'll become a hero. Sometimes I want to encourage you to do it. Just like the story that Madame Maria was telling us about. The one of, who? Solomon. I followed that story, and he was at one point arrested with the colleagues. But that even made it good for him, because the story got a lot of coverage. Actually, for those who are on social media, at least a good number has that story now as we speak. So sometimes go through those tight situations and make good stories. And we want to say that with the information we have picked, there is a lot that we are going to improve, especially as Parliamentary Forum on Media. I have come to realize that a number of things have not been put in place, and it has affected your performance. So we are going to look at a number of things with the President and see how best we can make good of your association. Comrades, we are all in the struggle to make our country good, and that calls for professionalism in whatever we do. It calls for loving our jobs. You may look at yourself as a small person, but the information that you give out this country, it can impact it negatively or positively. So just know that you're a very big person where you are, and whatever information that you give out to the society is very impactful. So let's go and do our jobs right. Let's love our jobs. Let's look at valuing ourselves and adding value to ourselves. Let's dream big and pursue big so that we can change our lives and the lives of our communities. I take the honor to close this engagement. I thank you.